We're live according to my computer.
Okay, just got to make sure that we're muted here, or otherwise we'll have major feedback. We are muted, which means here we are, live on a Tuesday night for Talk Time with TJ. Triple T, number 207 on December 16, 2025. My name is TJ Zebel. I refer to myself as a professional problem solver, but I always follow that up with no. I don't know everything. In fact, the more I learn, the more I know how much I don't know, or something like that. So glad you guys could join me as the year is closing down rapidly. Gotta thank everybody for that's been joining out in YouTube, which means that I get to say hi, Mom, up in the frost box in Minnesota, or should I say Minnesota, right, Mr. B? Um, wow. Before we got on, had all sorts of fun little technology snafus, and hopefully everything got cleared out. So here we go. YouTube, back to you guys. If you could do me a favor, that typical stuff that costs you nothing out of pocket except a few little clicks, if you would please click the subscribe button, click the bell, click a like, clickety click, 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 and leave some comments. I would appreciate that as well. Um, Helps out the channel, and I just like reading the comments because I'm a dude like that. What else? Got a website that I'd also like you guys to check out. Give me some feedback. Think we've done a couple of changes. Got some more changes coming up. You'll find that at www.tswb.com. thetallskinnywhiteboy.com. That's what it stands for. Always has, always will. That is he and he is I, way before the time of anything internet was even thought of. So if you see anything else that they're trying to convince you TSWB stands for, that is not me. It has nothing to do with me. I am the TSWB. On my website, you'll find some of the stuff that I am blessed to help people with, including but not limited to helping people with depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD, grief, uh, relationships, money challenges, even interview challenges for those that are looking to change professions. Had a client last week that I got to help that with. So, yes, whole plethora of things up there. And if you're wondering how I managed to get into this position, there's the little tab on the first page on the About Me. Click that button, and a wonderful little PDF with lots of information about me will show up. It's only 6 pages long. What can I say? It has been a heck of a ride so far, and I plan on keeping it going. That being said, time to introduce the tie of the week. And this one, we're going old school for the holidays. Check that out.
What is it? Oh, Santa skiing. Oh my God, that's adorable.
Isn't it?
That is
Want
so
to see
cute.
something else that's adorable? You ready for this? It's still
Oh,
on
the
there.
tag is still on it.
Price tag is still on it.
Nice. Thrift store?
I have no idea where I got it, but you know what? I almost feel like what was her name from Grand
Minnie
Ole
Pearl.
Opry? Minnie Pearl. So, yeah, that aged me a little bit right there, and that's fine because those recordings are still on YouTube and online, and they are worth watching. I don't care what anybody has to say. Good old, clean, entertainment. But let's move on with the show. Anybody got any cool stuff they would like to share from the last 7 days since we were here? Lenora.
Completely irrelevant, but I am super excited. I live in the state of Pennsylvania, and over the past weekend, I drove to North Carolina. And I drive back to North Carolina this weekend because I'm getting a puppy. And I got to meet her the other day, and oh my God, she's so cute. And if you guys, so give you all a little side story here. Earlier this year, in the month of April, my husband and I went to an air show. And if you didn't know, I'm a huge fan of the military and the Thunderbirds, and I'm very inspired by them. And so we were at an air show. And as we were one of the vendors at the air show, we were positioned across from the canine unit. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm not really a dog person at this point. I never really had that inkling that was like, oh my God, I need a dog in my life. Never in my life have I had a dog. And never in my life had I been like, oh my gosh, I need a dog. But there I am this one day, and I'm watching this canine unit all weekend long, walking and working with these dogs. And I go over on Sunday after they were playing one of my favorite soundtracks, which happens to be Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack. And I go over to them to buy a t-shirt and to support them. And as I'm sitting there talking, they're talking to other people, and people are now asking, like, what kind of dog is it? And all I could think of was, it must be a German Shepherd that has short hair. That's how little I knew about these dogs. And as I'm sitting there watching them, they're telling me that it's a Belgian Malinois. And I probably spent a whopping 5 minutes at this table, 4 of which was in line, and the other minute was me thanking them for their service and paying for a t-shirt. And I walk back across the path, and I go up to my husband, and I go, so we're going to get a dog, and it's going to be a Belgian Malinois. And he looks at me, he's like, okay. And because he had seen them the entire time too. So now over the next several months, we were like, yeah, we'll do it. Nah, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. When I was yes, he was no, and then back and forth, back and forth. So now it comes to the point where we're both like, yeah, we'll just figure it out. We don't know where we're going to get one, but we'll figure it out. And one day he comes to me and he's like, Cook Farms, North Carolina, what do you say? Are you in? And this was, I think, Friday, November 14th, maybe 13th, 14th. And it was November 13th. And he showed me the pictures, and I said, yep, let's do it. And I saw one of the dogs on it. And this one dog looked to me, of the 10 puppies that there were, this one dog looked like with her head up, and she looked like she was smiling. And I was like, yep, we're interested in purple. And so then we made the appointment to go meet them, and it happened to be this past weekend. And 2 weeks ago, they posted another picture of their collection of adorable puppies, which is adorable. Sorry, now I'm tangenting, but I have to tell you all this story. And of the 10 puppies there were, little Miss Purple is looking right at the camera. All 10 puppies are this way. This one is head up, looking straight at the camera. And so when we went in to go see them, and we went into like this cute little adorable office shed thing. And the funny thing is, the entire time I told my husband, I said, we're going to find a puppy, and it's going to be somebody on the side of the road. It's going to be like that. That's how this is going to appear. And sure enough, their farm was on the side of a road in North Carolina. And when we went in, they had asked which one puppy were we interested in. They brought them in one by one. And we saw Purple, and then we saw her sister Yellow, and we're like, yep, Purple, we don't need to see any of them. If I told you all how aligned this was, North Carolina is like a solid 7.5 hours from me. Granted, I did get to pass a Buc-ee's along the way, which you all know how much I love. Cannot even begin to tell you how aligned this was. So I'm going back to North Carolina this weekend to pick up my 7-week puppy.
Oh.
Very excited. So now you all have heard the story of Phoenix. This is her name, Phoenix. And the color of Phoenix, which I had thought was red, as you look into it, it's actually purple. So, you're all caught up in my life, and I have a countdown going, and I'm losing my mind. Cheers.
how much awesomeness can you put into one little story?
I'm like, happy tears. Lots of happy tears.
Good answer.
So,
All right. Anybody want to try and follow that? Mark will.
Just a little aside, heard during the week that, they have these little shorts on YouTube, and one of them was the 17 most hated states, and that people they hate, how badly economically or whatever people are doing. But they said the number one state in the United States that people actually like to be in is Minnesota. Yeah, that's what I said. That was that. So that's the favorite. That is the number one state that people actually like to be part of, is the Minnesotans. Even though they do act a little weird, and when Minnesotans go on vacation, they go to Alaska. Because they need a break from the weather.
Well, I was going to say maybe they were talking about sports people because I saw a survey where the number one sports, what state has the most involved sports fans, and Minnesota hit it.
I don't know. All I
That
know is
one confused me a little bit.
Minnesota ranked number one. And they were talking about all these other states where people hate being part of, like New York, and even I think Massachusetts was on there, California, but Minnesota was the one of the residents. They like being there.
All right. I like visiting. No offense, Mom. Love you.
Not that I was going to ever top Lenora's story.
it wasn't about that. I love hearing about you all.
Anybody else got anything they want to share before we get into the topics? Anybody? Anybody?
I do have a great question that I'm going to put in the chat for later.
Okay.
Start us off for hour 2.
Awesome. Well, if we got no other stuff to share, before we get started, for those of you that are new to Triple T or watching the recording for the very first time, the way this works, it's a 2-hour show. First hour, I do my best to try and get through 3 topics that I've come up with for tonight. Then the second hour, things change around a little bit, and it's open platform, open mic. Anybody on the call can bring up a topic or ask a question, and I let people on the call answer first because I like to learn as well. And after everybody has answered, if I feel that there's still something that I can offer, that's when I offer up my 2 centavos. And so those of you that are on the call, please start thinking about your second hour questions now. For those of you that are watching, please feel free to join us live. You don't even have to know how to spell NLP. Don't feel intimidated. If you got questions, we would love to hear them. So, without further ado, time to get on to the topics of the week. And this week's topics are energy transfer, gossip, and my youngers. So, getting into it, energy transfer. Oh my. And with the theme that we've had the last couple of weeks being the holly dazzles are upon us, there's going to be a lot of energy transfers and a lot of energy dips, dives, ups and downs, in, out, backwards and forwards. And so I wanted to bring this up for a couple of different reasons. One is to remind us again about going into the holidays with protective empathy. understanding that we don't fully understand what the holidays mean to other people. There are people that are going through the holidays for the first time without a loved one around. They're going through the holidays with certain memories, good and bad. Man, I've got some great memories of holidays back when I was a kiddo, and when Grandma would host all of us in her house. And I went up to the house in Grand Forks, North Dakota, this summer and had no idea how small that house is. How it hosted 5 families for the holidays without Grandma well, I'm going to say this nicely, without her losing her mind or the parents losing their minds, but yeah, right, Mom? And yet they pulled it off. And what kind of memories are we setting up, not only for ourselves, but for those around us, for our families and things like that this year? As it seems, there's more and more excuses of why we can't make it. No, it's too far, and the weather and activities, and the kids got this, and all the above. What are we going to remember about the holidays of 2025? And the energy that we bring to the holiday, and how is our energy going to affect others around us? And how are we going to allow the energy of others to affect us? All of these are questions to keep in mind as we go into the season, which we've already went through Turkey Day. And now we got the big one, 9 days away. 9. Are we prepared? Does everybody have their Christmas shopping done? Yeah, sure, kind of, maybe. How did they do it back in the day when there wasn't online shopping and Amazon and overnight delivery and free shipping and all of this stuff? Kudos to the families back then where the shopping and then hiding it from the kiddos. Good thing I never looked.
Like, were you a snooper?
Yeah, I was never a snooper. I never looked to figure out where Mom and Dad were hiding all the presents, and I never found any of them, and I never snooped in any of them, and I was the perfect child. Some of
It's
that
like
may be
Pinocchio.
a small exaggeration, yes. And yet, lots of memories from back then. And again, for the energy transfer, there are going to be times where, again, we're going to be around people, humans in their natural environment, shopping styles these days. Mark, get your hand up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, talk about energy transfer or blast from the past. When we first got our house, our bedroom had 2 skylights in it that I installed, and I don't know why it possessed me. The kids were little, and I basically went out the skylight and got up on the roof and was stomping around out there for like 5. My wife was telling, "Oh my God, kids, it's Santa. He's here. I am on the roof of my house, stomping around." So my kids would think, "Oh my God, Santa's here. We got to get to sleep, or we won't give us any presents." That was just a scroll that just popped in. I was like, I crawled out of the skylight, could stomp around, and and I don't know what possessed me. It was the only year I did it, but um, that was talking about an energy transfer. Those kids really believed in Santa Claus for a number of years because they
That's
heard him
adorable.
on our roof.
That is flippin' awesome. Holy banana peels, Batman. Talk about going above and beyond.
Totally.
But
That was worth it right there. Thank you for sharing that.
you're welcome.
For those of you watching, we do not recommend that you go stomping around on your roof. We hold no liability for anything that. Do not try this at home. If you do it, and all that. But man,
Links,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
the lengths that we go to keep the kids believing in Santa Claus.
And they wonder why women live longer than men. But man, the stories we can tell. The other part about energy transfer I wanted to bring up is the importance of why we work on ourselves. Working on ourselves, to improve our mindsets, to improve our energy, clean our energy up. Because as we do, those around us can't help but to be affected by our energy changes. And it's interesting the feedback I get from my clients about how, as they're working on themselves, people that used to drive them nuts or all the above, bless you, one of two things happen. Either the people change or they disappear. They either embrace the energy change or they distance themselves from it. And it's so interesting when I hear my clients go, they're fun to be around now. What the what? I'm like, yes. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, including how you treat others, the energy that you give out around others, and the energy transfer that they receive, whether they know it or not. Some don't even notice that they're acting a lot better around you. Now, is that because you're not wound up, you don't have that negative energy output anymore, or you've talked to them nicer? Yes, all the above. And yet, can you quantify it? Is it something that you can keep track? No, not thoroughly, not fully, not scientifically, I guess, which is, of course is why the science industry is like, that's just really. But is it really not? I have experienced it myself enough, and I have so many people that have quantified the change of the people around them that you can't convince me that changing your energy does not change the people around you. Anybody got any ahas, insights, epiphanies, squirrels run by that they want to share? Lenora.
I would definitely say changing your energy, hands down, changes the people around you. And I did not expect the shifts that would come from doing the work that we do. Even though people warned me about it, I still did not expect them. And one of the biggest things, and I was thinking this last week, and I've probably said it on here a couple of times now. Do you know, have you heard Mel Robbins and her let them theory? She's like, let them talk, let them do this, let them do that. And somewhere in Chicago, I know I was having a conversation with actually TJ, and what he had said to me was, let them change. And that to me was, it still echoes in my head, because there were times, and there still are times, and I do my best to catch myself, where I will still be very guarded with people, and which hilariously goes into one of the questions that I had for hour number 2. Whereas people will say something, they will show me that there is change, but my brain is still going like on guard, still on the defense, almost like, even though it doesn't actually come out of my mouth, it's like, yeah, but this happened. Yeah, but don't forget about this. Yeah, but don't forget about that. And in this let them theory, let them say what they want to say, but also let them change for the better. Some people might not change for the better, and some people will fade out of your life, especially doing this work. There's something that magically happens, especially for people who you're wanting them to not have such an impact on you, where they just shift in distance and somehow you just don't talk to them as much. And letting that happen, letting that change happen, but also the people that you're impacting simply by the work that you're doing, and they're leveling up. It's not necessarily a client. These are people that are close to you. Let them also change with you. And in that, you also have to let yourself continuously grow. And I used to think, I've said it many times, like, you'll change and then there you are, hark the herald. And it's not it. It's just a constant upward ascension of improvement, of change, of growth. So let them change, let yourself keep changing, and also let the shifts occur. If you can embrace them and continuously say, for my highest intention or for my highest good, like something else is in play here, you will stop pushing against the door that says pull.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because recently one of my triple P clients actually had one of the best so far reach out to them after a year, after they had decided that this person was not their person, because they had some red flags and
for sure you were going to say challenges.
Some challenges, yes, some issues. And they decided, okay, we were good enough to be friends. I'm not seeing anybody right now. We can go out, we can do a few things together, whatever. And they were shocked at the level that this person had changed in a year. And I said, you changed considerably. Why wouldn't they have the same ability? And what it came down to, that person said being around you and watching you grow, and I enjoyed being around you, and I realized I had to change because who I was with you when I was good is the person that I want to be. And so they both agreed that they had to forget about the past, let that go, because neither one of them are that person anymore. And they don't know what's going to happen in the future because things change. But my client was, I can't believe that my change changed them so much. And I said, yes, it was an energy transfer. And you were also willing to walk away. That's a big wake up call. And you didn't do it with malice or anger or anything. You just simply said, you're not my person. What I'm looking for is this, this, and this. But I appreciate our time. And thank you for the lessons that you gave me. And they walked away, and this other person just went, wow. The mirror popped up, and they got, instead of getting angry at the mirror and blaming the mirror, they were smart enough to analyze what they saw in the mirror and had the desire to put in the work. Mark.
Yeah, I got my one of my mentors, like I said, John Masters, when he was speaks to what Lenora was saying. When you level up, there seems to be a period of, when you're vibrating at a higher level of energy, there's a little bit of, I don't know what you'd call it, disturbance, whatever. And John did something for me. He, I wanted to just, go, with at this new level. And I just felt I had attained this avatar of, and he recognized it, and he grounded me. Literally, he took some of his energy and basically tethered me to the ground during hypnothoughts. He's like, he literally had he said, just calm down. Again, you leveled up. You need to stabilize at this new level. And he gave me a great gift of his energy. Talking about energy transfer.
Yeah.
It literally like put a manacle around my leg and basically grounded me. He said it'll take a few days, which it did. Metaphorically, after a few days, I could see with my inner eyes that I had stabilized, and what he had done to tether me. I looked at it and it just kind of fell apart because I didn't need it anymore. I was stable. So to speak to what Lenora was saying, that sometimes when you level up, it can be a little bit discombobulating. And John was able to help me through that. And, that kind of energy transfer. I said, sometimes when we're doing, when I'm doing I've run into situations being, complete strangers and sensing something in their nature, that, I'm not going to be able to work with this person. Basically, this person is, narcissistic or whatever. And I just, again, I don't have to work with anybody I don't want to. And, I can repulse those people that I don't think I can work with you, blah, 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 whatever. But having that ability to sense, this is not again, whatever that person's objective was not going to align with my, my ability to help them or to help them evolve. So, and again, when you can sense that negative energy, and just kind of put it at arm's length, just say, no, I don't think this is going to work out. Maybe I can refer you to somebody else. Again, that's all, it's almost, you sense it, and I sense it immediately now,
Yeah.
and that may be but that negative energy, I'm going to push it away, and I've done that with some personal relationships, but now at this level, like I said, I can kind of sense right off the bat, and push away that negative energy, and but I guess again, it's all, like I said, but when you have somebody like I said, like John, again, he always was able to clarify, help me along, and I think that's what we do for each other here, is
Yes.
to help each other along, and and transfer that energy. Like I said, I've had, I felt the energy, the support come through the folks with what we've been, what I've been going through this year, and I really felt it. I appreciate it. Like I said, this is my tribe. So
Awesome. We're so glad you're here, brother. Renee's got her hand up.
I guess when you can get rid of them, that's great. I mean, that's the ideal situation. I guess when you're not given the option where you're stuck in the same room with them, put them in a different costume, make them a bratty little 3-year-old, turn them into your favorite cartoon character, do something that makes them ridiculous. So even when they are spouting their negativity, at least it provides some humor.
Yes.
Or it doesn't trigger you like it would if you saw them in their in their natural meat suit.
Yes. Great advice, and thank you for sharing that. Yeah. If you, whatever it takes to protect your energy, utilizing protective empathy, like, that's okay, that's who they are, but that doesn't mean that you have to give up your energy because of that. One metaphor that I used for one of my clients was, with protective empathy, why do lifeguards have those buoys attached to a rope? So that when they swim out, somebody's drowning, they throw that out to the person that's drowning so that they can keep their distance, to make sure that the person who's drowning does not get a hold of them and pull them down with them. That's protective empathy. Swimming up to a drowning person and trying to help them and getting pulled down, that's toxic empathy. You understand what they're going through, but now you're involved and you're getting in trouble as well. With that, I'm going to change gears here quick. Try and see if we can get all 3 topics in tonight. Second topic, gossip. And we all know about gossip. Oh my goodness, we've heard about it, we've done it, we've had it done about us. I grew up in a little village of 187 people in mid-Minnesota, and my grandmother wrote the gossip column for the local newspaper. So, yes, we knew all about it, but one of my clients brought up a couple of different ways to look at it. They decided that, one, they were no longer going to gossip about other people. It wasn't, they didn't help build anybody up. In fact, what happened was they were seeing somebody, and some person came up and did a little gossip about the person they were seeing, and it set them off and ended up causing a big fight with the person that they were seeing, only to find out that it wasn't true. And they confronted their person through text instead of going over to their place and talking to them about it. Ooh, mistake number 2. And that's one form, but the other form that they brought up that I had not really thought of was gossiping to ourselves about stuff that happened in the past is another form of gossip. Well, you know that one time when that one thing happened because of that one person, and remember how mad we got about that? And you don't even have the ability to prove what the intent was or the actual facts around it, because if it's been a while, we remember what we've said enough times. But that doesn't mean that we remember the true and actual facts. And so with allowing these voices in our head to tell us certain things, a couple of things to analyze. If there were speakers around your head, 360 degrees around your head, if you were to close your eyes and point to where that sound is coming from, where would that be? And you point to where that is, and what I've found over and over and over and over is it's not here or there or here. Almost all of the time, it's up somewhere above us, because that's where most of the voices came from when we were kids. Whether it was your parents or your friend's parents or any of the above, we were just so used to hearing voices from up here. Even our friends telling us stuff, even if they were the same height, at that age, we still referenced information coming, yes, Mark, voice of authority, from up here. And if some of those comments ended up on a recording loop that kept playing over and over and over and over and over and over, how many times do you have to hear something before you accept it as truth? Well, if you've got this recording up here that's playing 24/7, 365, oh, you can't do that. Oh, that's no, you don't know how to do that. Oh, you don't have that kind of capability. You can't make that kind of money. That's not who you are. And all of these limiting beliefs, and they're in a voice that you recognize that's internal, even though it's up here. How much longer do you want that recording playing over and over and over and over before you either shut off the amplifier, kick the speaker, replace the recording with something better, because it's nothing more than gossip inside your head. Is it really true? Well, I've heard it 1.5 trillion times, so it must be true. Well, how old is the recording? And you go back and you ask them, and they're like, I was 8. Well, you were 8 one time. Are you 8 today? Just because it happened doesn't mean that it has to keep happening. Mark put in the comments, and for those of you that are watching the recording, you won't see the comments, or if you're out on YouTube. So Mark put in, you can change the location of the voice. Sometimes you can change the voice to a cartoon character's voice. Yes. Most people don't realize that they have those abilities, those freedoms, that capacity to decide, is this voice something that I would allow today? If a stranger, and I use this one a lot, is if a drunk homeless meth head came up to you and said, you're not worthy of making that much money, would you go home and go, I'm making too much money? Some random drunk meth head who's homeless told me so. Well, of course you wouldn't. But if you've got a recording that's been running since you were 8, you probably have learned to believe that on autopilot. You probably didn't even recognize that it was a recording. You heard the voice, but you've heard the voice so much, it didn't even dawn on you that it was an actual voice, that it was a recording. That you had nonstop gossip going on in your head, that you have the option to go, you know what? Shut up. Just shut up. Lenora.
I love the idea that people gave you a thought. And I love the idea of we have thoughts. We're not our thoughts. We have thoughts.
Yes.
And people gave you an idea. They gave you a thought as if they were giving you food to eat. And they were saying, here, eat this. You're gonna love it. And you keep eating it and you go, but it's making me feel terrible. It's making me feel uncomfortable. It's making me feel nauseous. It makes me feel terrible. I'm like, no, keep eating it. Keep eating it. And when you start to recognize that somebody gave you this thought, not only did they give you that thought, they told you that this is what this means about you. And then you keep eating it. So when we notice those thoughts, especially when it comes to money, and especially in this world where it makes you think that your value and your worth are a dollar sign, especially when it comes to your productivity, recognize that you are at a buffet, and also recognize that other people don't have those thoughts. One of them that I thought was amazing was I was going back and forth with a decision, like back and forth. I was like, there are people who just decide something and they just go, they just, boom, it's done. They just made the decision. They don't have this back and forth thing. And I'm like, that to me was amazing. So when you recognize, especially about money, that you're thinking these ways only because somebody told you to eat it. Somebody told you that this was the thing that was for you and you had to enjoy it. And you now get to go back and go, but I really don't like this meal. I don't want to keep eating this. I'd rather eat what that person's eating because that looks way more delicious. You can start to separate it out from this me version to this I have version to this I no longer have version. And in doing so, you shift your identity because you're also shifting the voice of authority in there. And when you're doing that, something else that can even be helpful is, whose permission do I need? Who might need to come in to help me shift this thinking? And I love the idea of that you had shared, Mark, John Masters. He was for you a wonderful authority in the certainty that you needed to ground into. And that was extraordinarily powerful. We need those people in our lives, people who have the certainty. Oh my God, it's amazing, because then you can look at them and you think, well, they're not worried about it. So maybe I don't have to be. Maybe I can lean on their certainty. Complete game changer. Oh, I don't like using that phrase, but really does change the game.
Well, and I'm so glad that you brought that up, especially with the eating it part. When you finally realize that it was an 8-year-old or it was a 12-year-old that picked up this recording and decided that this was the recording, and it one of the squirrels brought back a humorous little memory, and Mom, you're going to remember this and you're going to love this. I had, back in the day, and I don't remember how old I was or which birthday it was for Mom, but I decided that I was going to make Mom a birthday cake. And I found out that the lady that used to babysit for us made chocolate frosting with coffee. And so I was going to make Mom some chocolate frosting with coffee. I didn't know at the time that didn't mean putting coffee grounds. You don't put some Folgers in the frosting. I know now. But
yeah, it's one of those things you only got to do once.
Yes. It was a little chewy, a little gritty, had a little texture to it. But if that was a recording that kept playing in my head over and over, you have to put coffee ground, you put Folgers in the frosting. Either you don't understand why nobody likes your cake, or you don't understand why you're not as good at it as somebody else. Just like recordings about money, you can sit there and beliefs around money. You can listen to Wayne Dyer and the financial gurus and all of these people, but you've only heard them 3, 4, 5, 15 times. But how many times have you heard the recording, you can't make that kind of money? You're not good enough for that kind of money. You're not that kind of person that makes that kind of money. If that recording got put in place, if that gossip line got put in place when you were 8, 10, 12, you've heard that 1 trillion times. 15 times from Susie Orman trying to take that over. That's quite a challenge. So don't beat yourself up if this is hitting home. Take it as, oh my gosh, how can I change this? And reach out to some of us and let us go in and help you with that. Mark.
Probably why most lottery winners are broke within 5 years after winning the lottery, because they feel like they don't deserve it at some level. That's not why I had another thought. Has anybody ever heard the concept of a sin eater?
Of a what?
A sin eater.
A sin eater. I have. It was a while back.
Yeah, it's like when you when you have a less than positive outcome, maybe you've hurt somebody's feelings or whatever, but you take all that moral excrement and you take it and you bury it way down deep inside of you. And that's how you move on to the next thing. But like, like a like a graveyard, those skeletons always, dig themselves out of their graves. But the concept of a sin eater, just seemed to fit in with, sometimes, like I said, we take the wrong lesson, or we may have hurt somebody inadvertently. And instead of, admitting our fault and asking for, forgiveness or, contrition, we take it and we bury it way down deep inside of ourselves.
Yes.
Sometimes, those can lead to those negative voices, those that tell us that we're not worthy, that we're not, but that was my thought about, the idea of the sin eater was a
Yeah.
squirrel that popped by. So,
And when you think of two concepts that go with it, one is the book, The Body Keeps the Score,
mhm.
understanding that when we pack that stuff down in our body, it causes dis-ease. Our body can only store that toxicity for so long before it has to go, hey, I can't get your attention about what you're putting down here, but I bet if I create a tumor, I'll get your attention. The other thing is understanding it takes power to run that equipment, that sound system. You are supplying that energy to run that equipment 24/7, 365, your entire life. The volume, the recording, what that recording does, all of that takes energy. And we are not unlimited energy creators. And so you have to be careful with what is utilizing your energy. Lenora.
I love what Mark was sharing, which made me think of it this way. There's also another concept I forget where I came across it, I believe Brent Baum. And we can have the ability to take on other people's stuff and think like, oh, I'm responsible for having to solve their problem. I'm responsible for having to fix this about them, especially when we get taught early on, or as children, we can learn to interpret it as we are responsible for making other people happy. And we are also responsible if we made them unhappy, and we should know better. And in doing so, we can sometimes take on other people's stuff. That being said, especially when we're doing this kind of work or any type of change work, so even in the idea of charging for money, and your belief is, I'm not worth this. Okay, who taught me this?
Yes.
Okay, well, my family might have taught me this. Oh, this isn't mine. I'm not a thief. I have to give this back. This isn't mine. And if I take this on for them, I'm robbing them, and I'm not a thief. And so that way you can separate from it even more so. And I found that to be very, very powerful, because if we have this idea of they have to take ownership, they have to take responsibility just as much as I have to take responsibility. I can't take what's theirs.
Yeah.
Not only am I robbing them of that process, if I take it from them, I'm the thief. So now I'm taking on even more that isn't my responsibility, that isn't for me. And no matter what, and no matter how badly I want to take this on, I still can't, because I'm not a thief. And it really helps when you start to understand that taking it on is a choice, eating this concept or having this idea is a choice, even though, and trust me, oh, have I been there? Even though part of you is like, no, I have to, this isn't a choice. This is just how I am. When you start to settle into the thought and into the emotion, you can notice it and you can start to work through it.
Yes.
Because ultimately it is a choice.
Yes. And I'm so glad you brought that up, and I'm gonna finish off the first hour with Jim Rohn, and a few of them said,
Hmm.
don't wish it was cheaper, wish you had more money. There's a difference between that thought process, and I've found that a lot of people that are angry about the price grew up in a household where money was an issue. Oh, I can't believe he's charging that much. He's just out robbing us. There's no reason there's no reason it had to be that price. This is a bunch of that. And so you learn people that are charging more than you think it should be are trying to pull one over on you. They're doing something bad. And so as a result, when it's your turn to charge stuff, and you'll see people that they'll buy stuff, but when it's time to sell it, they would rather give it away than try to come up with a price to get the value back. I'm so afraid to ask people for money for what I have, because what if they think the price is too high? Well, do you have too much money in your account? Well, no. Then you got room for it. And if it's too much for them, then they're not the right people. Yeah, Lenora.
I would also add on, if that thought is coming up, sit with that thought.
Mm-hmm.
What's making you think it's too much? Because as much as we definitely want to recognize our own value, we also have to look at the fact that, why am I thinking this is too much? What else is going on? Where do I feel that the value that I offer them? And I think also, even one of the biggest ones I really struggled with for a while was value and worth. Am I worthy? Am I deserving? And I would say, but we all are. And it is, yes, we all are. Who's recognizing it? Who's remembering the truth that we all are?
Well, we're on a roll with this, but we are out of time for the first hour. You guys on the call are more than welcome to bring up and continue this opportunity, or this discussion. This is your hour. For those of you that are watching for the first time or watching the recording for the first time, as I said earlier, 2-hour show. Second hour is open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can bring up a question or a topic, and I let the people on the call answer first because I like to learn as well. So now second hour protocol comes in place. So if you guys want to keep discussing this, you're more than welcome to. It's your turn, your time. So who wants to bring up a topic or a question? Really? Renee?
So this has been a problem I've actually had with a few people. And then I started talking to some friends about it. And then they're like, yeah, if you can figure out a solution to it, let us know. It's people that are having so much anxiety that no matter what you do, even when you're trying to help, you trigger them. I'll give an example. Like I have a friend who's a vet, and he's disabled, so he can't necessarily do a ton of stuff. And he wanted to move a kitchen table from the kitchen area to the living room for Christmas. And I'm like, oh, I can help him with this. It's a 2-person project. It took us an hour and a half. Everything I touched triggered him. I tried to pick up some mail to move it. He's like, what is that? What is this going on? Oh, I don't know. You know, this might need to go here or this could go there. And, you know, I still need to think about this. And I'm like, it's literally having somebody that every time they take a step, they have to think of every possible problem that can occur. You know, what if I step on a rock? What if I slip on ice? What if I step out in front of somebody and they trip on me? I mean, and even when you're trying to help them, it doesn't feel like you're really helping them. It feels like you're almost causing them more stress than was your intention. So my question for all of you is, have you had this issue before? And if so, how do you help people that are in this hamster wheel of everything? They're just so wound so tight that everything triggers them. Like simple decisions are just too much for them. Like, where do you want to go to eat? And all of a sudden it's a meltdown. And I'm unsure of what to do.
Awesome. I've got so many answers for this, but I'm going to let everybody else answer first because I want to see if there's something else that we can do for them. So who's got an answer for Renee? Come on, come on, come on. Lenora.
I definitely have been there, and I find myself there too. And especially when it's happening, the first thing is, yes, they asked for your help. And recognize that you can only do so much. And the biggest thing is to recognize that it goes much deeper than you. It has nothing to do with you, as in, it's not about you. It's at you. And moving their environment, even if it's something like moving a table, it's a lot of control and it's uneasy and their nervous system is spiking. And the best thing that you can do is ground yourself, especially when you're going into these situations. Ground yourself. Know that no matter what, you're not judging them. It's okay. And that it has nothing to do with you. You can, whether you want to shift your mindset and think, oh, I'm going to help a friend. You might need to put on your coach hat that says, I need to also have the same patience that I would have if this was a client, especially if this was a paying client, which is a different story than somebody who you're helping. If this was your ideal client, how would you treat them? When you do that, you'll come and you'll shift into a different part of your energy, and you'll notice your own certainty that it doesn't have anything to do with you, and it'll level up your ability to hold space for them. And it'll also help shift your tone when you're talking to them. So that way you also don't take it on. When you do leave, again, monitor your energy and clean it up. And, you know, especially when it comes to that, this was something that I really didn't think a lot about until I started to notice my own patterns. It really is a thing of taking on people's stuff. Thoughts and energies are bouncing around all over us. We can pick them up like we're walking through a car wash. Monitor yourself and recognize that as much as you want to help them, you can help them only to the level that they're going to let you help them, and to not lose yourself in that. And one of them, and this is definitely more of an extreme storyline, was I was helping somebody over the summer, and I was getting so wrapped into this one situation that I believe it was TJ that had pointed out as he was coaching me. He mentioned, he's like, why do lifeguards carry buoys? Because you extend the buoy. You don't drown with the person. That's the difference. And that was really, really helpful for me.
Thank you for sharing. Mark.
Yeah. Again, when you're trying to help somebody, like I said, if it's a male, I think men and women deal with um, anxiety differently. Basically, I think men tend to experience anxiety when they get when they're caught on the horns of a dilemma, or they got a fence pole shoved up their butt. Um, the when they have two competing, like I was working with a client and he had a decision to make to go back. He had left his family to go back to his family, or to be with the woman who was everything he could possibly imagine in a relationship. And for months, he just couldn't make a decision. And, I kept trying to clarify it. And he kept asking me, what should I do? I said, I have no idea, because if I had lived every moment of your life, experienced everything, pulled out of those experiences, what what you pulled out of them, I might have a dim idea of what you should do. But that really, like I said, again, men, we don't tolerate emotion well. We don't like feeling. So when you're trying to help somebody who's overwhelmed with anxiety, a lot of times it's, you can try to help them clarify themselves, but, but in the end, they have to make a decision. We're going to do this, we're going to, move the table, we're going to not, and then, just make the decision and live with the outcome. Again, sometimes the best thing you can do is help, tell them to make a decision and, live with the outcome. For ladies, they have a lot of anxiety. They tolerate it. If men had to walk around with the ambient level of anxiety that women usually have to tolerate, they'd be in a fetal position in the corner, sucking their thumb. We don't, because we're men, we don't tolerate emotions well. So, if you want to help somebody, sometimes it's, just tell them, make a decision, make a choice, and then don't, one way or another, as far as that moving the table. We're going to move this table, or aren't we? Yes. Okay. Well, then forget about everything else. Let's just move the table, basically. And then usually when the decision's made, anxiety disappears. This guy I was working with, once he decided, he made he kept wanting me to make the decision for him. And I said, I can't do that. It's not within the purview of my powers. So, but when he made the decision, all his anxiety went away. So it tells you something about the male of the species.
Good answers. Holly.
So I'll go out on a limb here. This obviously is not an actual diagnosis, but first of all, I would say consider the possibility. First of all, this is going to be a difficult thing, and for a lot of people, it's not going to be your thing. And sometimes the best thing you could do is say, I love you, I care about you, but I can't be there for you because this is beyond, this is above my pay grade. So first of all, that is one step. I would suspect there's a very good chance you're dealing with some combination of OCD, autism, or ADHD in these situations. And with what I've looked into these conditions, some of the biggest fears. So the first fear is shame, which Lenora touched on, which is a big deal. So if they know you're not judging them, that's a big deal. Another one is not being heard or understood or believed. So for example, I could tell you, it took me forever to figure out why this was a problem for me. But growing up, my mom was always moving the furniture around because that was her thing. And I was constantly bruising myself on it. And what I realized is I don't see the room when I'm in it. I memorize the room the first time I go in there, and I update my image maybe once every month or something. So, what may seem like the tiniest little thing to you may be a very real thing they're dealing with on their side. And if, you tell them, oh, you're not going to bump yourself, you're not going to bruise yourself on this table. No, I'm going to bruise myself on this table probably a good dozen times. I just have to decide if it's worth moving the table if I get bruised on it a dozen times. But I feel a lot better if the person says, I'm proud of you for doing this thing that I know is difficult for you, instead of, don't worry, your fears are not real, if that makes sense. So it's, if someone's feeling like their worries, their concerns are being trivialized or made fun of, that is a form of shame, first of all. But there's also, of course, the fear of loss of autonomy. I think I may have mentioned that one as well. So there's something called pathological demand avoidance you may be tapping into. You might be tapping into rejection sensitivity dysphoria. So I won't go too deep into those ones. But I would just say, if you really genuinely want to help, and one, you make it clear you're not shaming. Two, you make it clear you're not going to take away their autonomy. And three, you're making it clear that even if it sounds weird to you, you're not going to judge it and you're going to believe their reality is real to them. You're going to get really, really far. Then the final step, I would say, is helping them weigh their values. So you're going to have, if they need to move this table, and you could say, what is your concern? Is your concern that I'm going to sue you? Is your concern that I'm going to fall and get injured and then you're going to feel guilty for the next month? Or is your concern that I'm going to break something that you really, really care about and you're going to be just devastated for a month? Talk through that and then say, okay, there's a risk this is going to happen. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say it can't happen. But what is the cost of not moving this table? And then don't tell them, hey, you have to move the table. We talk about, the ranking on a scale of 1 to 10 of how important is this to you kind of thing. You could do that technique. But, where you do the opposite of what they're expecting, that sort of thing. If you were to move, you don't have to move this table. In fact, if you want, I can make it so we keep this table here even more. But if you were to move the table for your reasons, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much would you want to move it? That technique, if you know what I'm talking about. And if they decide they want to move the table, remind them the cost of moving the table is taking the risk that somebody's going to get hurt, is taking the risk that something might get broken. And let them sit with that for a second and absorb that decision and make the decision. And now that they're doing it from a place of, I made this decision and I'm accepting the risks, it's going to go a lot smoother. The other thing I would also say too is, in these cases, a lot of times people volunteer their help before it's asked for, and they're insisting on doing what they think the other person needs, and it may not be what they actually need. So make sure it's something they initiated. If they didn't initiate it, you're probably going uphill on this one, and it's going to be really tough to convince them otherwise.
Great answers. Thank you for sharing. Lenora.
Hi again. Oh, Renee, do you want to pop on?
Just real quick to give some extra clarification to it. I mean, so the table did want to be moved. This was something that was discussed several times, and he usually doesn't have help. So I'm like, oh, I'll be over there. I was going to drop off some stuff anyway, so I'll help. But it'd be like we're in the process of getting things cleared off, and some clean paper plates ended up on the floor. And that was another thing, like, oh, that was a waste of money. Those are clean. Do I keep them? Do I throw them away? What do I do with them? It's like, it's like everything kind of got triggered. It got moved, and all of a sudden now he's noticing scratches on the table, noticing how dirty things are. I wanted to help him. I knew this was something that he needed, so I wasn't imposing it upon him. I know that I've done that to my sister, and yeah, that's completely blown up in my face. But in this case, like I said, it was just every step in the process seemed to trigger, or something else just got in him. It's like, if you moved a can of food from one space to another, he was concerned that where it got moved to was the correct space. I don't know if that helps.
Okay, Lenora.
The thing that I would, I started to write it, and because I know you mentioned in the chat that that it's not about you, which is great, and that you just wanted to help. In that, you're likely activating so much of him, and unintentionally, and it may also be, go in perhaps with the idea of just, it's okay. There's no judgment. It's okay. and stay as even keel as you can, because what might be happening, even in the asking of questions, you can even say, that's okay, I'll wait. In asking more questions, you can be escalating him. But the other thing is that he might not know what safety feels like. He also might not know what feminine safety feels like, which is very different. It could also be amplifying the things that are going on. So if you're gonna still, offer help and stuff, it'll be interesting to see going in with different energy, different tone, how he might respond. And he's also what could also be happening is, not only are you lighting him up, everything is coming up now, because now he's with somebody that's safe enough that can see all this crazy. Not that he's crazy, but like, to me, when all my stuff is coming out of my head, it feels like all my crazy is coming up to the surface, that this person is able to hold space for it. It's entirely possible.
Good stuff. Holly.
I'll jump in again here. I think I've shared this before, but I have been diagnosed with OCD. So yes, I'm very familiar with the, oh crap, that piece of mail moved. I'm never going to be able to find it again because it moved 2 inches to the right. And by the way, I will never be able to find it again. It's probably going to be a couple of years before I find it. I'm very familiar with the, oh crap, that paper cup that I've never used just fell on the ground and now it's dirty and can I ever use it again? I've had that response before many, many times. I've had the, oh crap, I've been covering up this area where I forgot that I scratched the table or I spilled something on it or stained it, and it's been out of sight, out of mind for the past year, and oh crap, something just fell off of it and now I can see it again. So I can't swear what somebody else is responding when that happens. I've done a lot of work on the letting go of the paper cup. To somebody else it might seem like no big deal. It took me years of therapy to be able to let go of the paper cup. Well, I say therapy, hypnosis, whatever it may be. And what helped finally was I had to say, my mental health is worth more than the 10 cents that cup is. I can always replace it. That's a huge one. 10 cents is not going to break me, because a lot of it going on is, I grew up believing in the value of $1, and if you waste 2 cents, you wasted 2 cents, and that's unforgivable, So a lot of this might go back to childhood trauma, some of that sort of thing. But what Lenora said about the biggest thing is, oh no, and on top of it all, somebody else is here to witness me having a meltdown. So honestly, the meltdown itself is not nearly as painful as the embarrassment of having the meltdown in front of another person. And if the other person could just say, hey, I understand this is hard for you. Just so you know, there's no judgment here. If you need to take a minute and breathe, that's okay. Too much talking can be, overstimulating, overwhelming. But even just a basic, hey, are you okay? Do you need to talk about anything, or do you just need a minute? Just stepping in. I think the biggest thing is, yes, you might be tapping into pockets of anxiety that were underneath that needed to be opened up and vented, but know that you aren't hurting them as long as you're not shaming them, as long as you're not being impatient with them. If you're shaming them, judging them, being impatient with them, acting like it should be no big deal, you might actually be amping up the energy and increasing the wound. But sometimes it doesn't even take that long. As soon as they realize, that you're not judging them, depending on how much they've reframed it in their life, they might get over it very, very quickly once they feel safe. And each thing that comes up more, when they're like, nope, I know for sure this person's not judging me. I know for sure this person has my back and they're just sitting with me. It gets easier and easier and easier with each additional thing. But, they talk about with anxiety, the best way to get over anxiety is not avoidance. It's controlled exposure.
Yep.
And so you're helping them go through that controlled exposure in a way that they're not by themselves. But if you just went in and said, hey, I'm going to take an hour to help move the desk, and now it's going into 5 hours or something, you've got to also protect yourself. So if you say, you know what, I'm here to help you for an hour, but I got to leave after that, they will probably understand that. And if all you do is sit with them while they breathe through the terror of remembering how much they stained this table and scratched it up. You help them. And that's good enough. And if you're able to hold that space without judging them, it's probably something they haven't experienced in a very long time, to be believed, not judged, not shamed. Just holding the space for them to vent that emotion and face it, not by themselves, is a huge help, whether it feels like it in the moment or not.
Good stuff. Renee?
Thank you, Holly, for that. Because I guess that was my concern, because I don't have an issue with the meltdowns because I know that they happen. And so that doesn't really bug me. My concern is that at the end of the day, I mean, did I provide help or not? So just kind of based on what you were saying, so I'm going to reiterate, make sure I understand you correctly, that it is helpful even if you are kind of going through this emotional decompression during the process. It's that controlled exposure where, yes, you know you're going to be stimulated, but it's not overstimulated. Like if I decided to help him clean his entire living room, that probably would have been really bad. But just doing that one thing, even though it did take so long to do, it was a positive in the long run. And I guess my question for you is, if when you were handling situations like that and you had someone helping you, how would the helper know when they have passed a point where it's gone too far? Since part of it is a venting process.
That's a great question. I'll respond to it real fast. First of all, yes, you repeated that back perfectly, and yes, I guaranteed you helped them. I will say for me, if I've got somebody who is taking the time to get rapport with me and trust me, and I feel like I'm being listened to, as long as I feel safe to do it, I will tell them if it's getting too much. And if they want to ask me, if they want to just say, hey, you know what? I'm here to help you. Just so you know, I'm not judging anything. I've seen worse. Don't worry. I'm here to hold space for you. But if at any point this is getting too intense, how would you like to communicate that to me so that I know that we need to back off or something? And I'm very good at, I may have panic attack after panic attack after panic attack, but I've never lost the ability to say, I need to stop, or this is too much. I need to pause for a minute. That's never, as long as I feel like you're not going to judge me for it and you're not pushing me to go faster. As long as I feel safe, I will always, in fact, I will feel so happy that I have that permission. That alone will vent a lot of the feelings.
Good stuff. And my squirrels are going bananas over here because I've got so much on this stuff. So whenever you guys are ready, let me know.
I think the floor is yours, teacher.
Yes, I go for it.
One of the first things that I deal with this a lot, especially with working with clients. One of the first things when I recognize that they're having a reaction like this, I'll ask them, so what are you feeling right now? To see what label they give it. Oh, I've got anxiety. Okay, so anxiety. And I'll say, would you be opposed to learning about anxiety so you have a better chance of controlling it? And 99% of the time, they will say, sure, because of the curiosity. And there are so many different things that I teach them. One of the things is that anxiety like that is living in the future for worst case scenario. And I'll ask them, what's so important about living in the future with only addressing or recognizing worst case scenarios? Is there a possibility that in the future that there's a moderate case scenario or even a good case scenario. I don't even have to go for the best case scenario. Is there something other than worst case scenario? Then I'll teach them the difference between anxiety, fear, and excitement. And the other one that I'll use, and you guys have heard me talk about this before, is the time and date protocol. A lot of times people that deal with a lot of anxiety forget that they have survived up until this date, up until this very point in time. They are so hyper-focused on how bad things could happen in the future. They don't even see where they are today and recognize that they survived everything that has ever come up to this point. One of the quotes I like to give them is, and I think it was Mark Twain who said, I have wasted so much energy worrying about 100 things that could go wrong, 99 of them of which never happened. And the one that did turned out to be nothing, and I survived it. And for the vast majority of time, if it doesn't completely get rid of it, it alleviates it enough for them to have more control and understand. Try living in the present today instead of what could possibly go wrong in the next 2 seconds, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, tomorrow. And also realize, with all the things you thought you could go wrong, you're still alive. You're still alive. And I'm still here. And I'm still willing to help you. That's the Reader's Digest. Any questions on that? Or? And Mark would also agree, there's always spinning. And that's a whole different class subject, all the above. But this is your guys' hour, so. Did that help, Renee?
Yeah, like I said, I just, you see people in these tailspins. And again, Holly, maybe this is more for you, is that I notice that when you offer up help, that doesn't work necessarily. I really haven't had that one work out well for me.
You have to ask them if they're opposed to learning. I learned that the hard way. If I say, well, I can help you with that, that produces more anxiety because, well, am I being judged? What could go wrong? What am I doing wrong? What did you notice? And off they go on the running course. If you ask them, would you be opposed to learning more about, like I say, if they give the label of anxiety, well, that's an interesting label. Would you be opposed to learning more about that? Or would you be opposed to anybody helping you with that? Again, I've gotten it a lot, including at the airport. Lots of people with anxiety, self-diagnosed anxiety about the upcoming flight. Holly.
Oh, I'll just jump into I think it depends on what stage the panic attack is at and how much rapport you've built.
Mhm.
If this is somebody who already trusts you, so I have some people who have already put themselves in that place that I already trust them from, 10 times back or whatever, they are not going to have to do the same level of rapport to feel safe. But if it's somebody who doesn't have rapport with me that I don't already know, I can trust to not judge me, to not shame me, to respect my autonomy. If I don't already know those things, the first thing I will say when I'm in a really bad panic attack that I need is silence. And you could offer me all the advice in the world. I'm hearing Charlie Brown's teacher talking. And all it is additional stimulation to add to the overwhelm. I'm not I've lost the ability to process the words that are coming out of your mouth. So if you could, basically, if you could calm me down, state control is a really good one here. Get rapport with me, control your state, and just, give a little bit of silence. And if you only use a couple words, I might be able to process that. So, are you okay? Do you need anything? And then maybe after waiting a minute, just to let you know, if you just need quiet, I'm okay with that. But if you'd like to talk about it, I'm here. Once you get them down to the lower levels, that's where a lot of what TJ is suggesting is going to help. And like I said, too, if it's somebody that you've helped many, many times before and you've already got that rapport and that trust, the panic attack may not get as bad. And even if it does, your ability to jump in faster is going to be a lot higher. But that first time, it's going to sound like Charlie Brown's teacher, and all you are is noise to add to the overwhelm. So just always keep that in mind. If it's at the level, 1,000 on a scale of 1 to 10, that's probably what you're dealing with.
And one of our listeners on YouTube sent me a text. Dave said, worrying is like a rocking chair. Gives you something to do, but it gets you nowhere. Any other ahas, epiphanies, input for this topic?
I just
I thought
wanted to
this was a great
say,
topic.
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for their input. This was very, very helpful. I guess my problem is I'm very much a production person. So when I get stressed out, I want to clean. So, I have friends from my childhood that thinks this is great. Oh, Renee's stressed out. I'm going to invite her over. We'll whip out the wine and she's going to help me clean out my pantry and I'll be completely happy doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're having a bad day and need to do yard work? Yeah, I'll be out in the backyard. I'll pull weeds with you for.
Well, it's good to recognize that and use it as a power, not as a limiting situation. I kind of do the same thing. When I get really mad about something, people around me know that the best thing they can do is just leave me alone because I'm going to go in the shop or go somewhere where I can do something productive to burn off steam. That was imposed upon me in my younger days. You got that much damn energy to be angry? Do something with it. Be productive. Time's going to pass anyway. And you'd be amazed at the amount of work you can complete with that kind of energy, because it's abundant at times. So if Renee got all the Mark.
Just one quick thing before we move on. I was going to say my mom was borderline OCD, and I have that chip, and every once in a while the wiring connects, and then it's like stand back. I'm going to clean the entire house from stem to stern, and my wife calls it. When I have it, I can be 10 times more productive, cleaning, organizing, and then,
Yep.
after a while, the chip goes offline, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done.
When I
But
always
she knows
joke,
when I have hits, she needs to bet, she needs to just, hit the bunker until I'm done.
I always joke that I'm not OCD, I'm CDO, because that's alphabetical the way it should be. Mm. And my wife found the perfect birthday card for me. It says that on the cover. I'm not OCD, I'm CDO, because that's alphabetical. And you open it up and it says happy birthday, but it's spelled alphabetically. AHPPY. And I'm like, where'd you find this? She goes, I had found it 6 months before your birthday and knew that I had to buy it. So, anybody else got anything to add before we take on another topic or question?
I do.
Yes. Go
I,
ahead.
it's interesting, this thread here of people who focus or channel their energy into cleaning tasks. And I for sure have done that many, many, many times when, frustration, anger, confusion, whatever it is. Boy, I get into a cleaning and or organizing frenzy. I kind of go into savage mode, but it's very therapeutic, I should say. Uh, and God, at the end of the day, so much shit has been done. It's amazing,
Mhm.
And generally, I'll calm down at some point because I've expended this energy. I have a chance to process it without sitting quietly processing. So anyway, just want to tell you, I can relate 100%.
I'm just going to call it a form of active meditation.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yep.
Renee.
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody without cutting anybody off.
Go ahead. Mark.
Yeah, one of the ancients, Confucius or one of those guys said, meditation in repose is good, but meditation in activity is 100, 1,000 times more beneficial.
Yep. Well, that leaves us with 17 minis. Do we have another question topic to propose for the group? Somebody, anybody?
Well,
That's a deep hole.
my session today with Mr. Zeeble was pretty extraordinary. And it was about ego. And I'm still processing it. So it's not super clear. There was so much that transpired. But I think it might be helpful to others. And I was actually able to speak to my ego and from my ego. I sat there for it was 2 hours that went by and it felt like 10 minutes, but I think most of the time my eyes were closed and I became like I was very much aware of these two, I guess, personalities, as I might call it, the spirit, the soul, the consciousness, and then the ego. And I ended up halfway through speaking from both sides. And it was very fascinating that I actually could give my ego a voice other than hearing it all the time, like hearing that voice, right? I actually was speaking from the ego. And it was really fascinating that I was able to do that. And I felt the personality of the ego, the childish, the innocence and the frustration and the unknowing and of the ego, and how the ego tries to do something it's not designed to do, right? And how it's like through life, I and many of us give it a task that it's not supposed to take on, and it doesn't know how to do it, but it tries to anyway, you know. So we end up listening to the ego, and it's very confusing because it's like it's struggling along trying to tell us what we should do, and it's just not really, it's not always that good at it. So it was really fascinating to look at that and have a much better understanding for me of what the ego was for me anyway. I don't know what it's like for other people, but for like most of my life, the ego was like had this label of bad, right? It's negative. It's always looking for something, some problem to create, right? So I just was able to, and again, I'm still processing it all. It was very, God, there was so much that happened, but so much that happened. You know, I was exhausted and overwhelmed at the end. I couldn't even speak. I had to go and sit in a chair in the sun and just relax. Um, so it's like I have a different relationship now with that part of me. I recognized how it has been for all of my life and how it changed at certain points of my life through, you know, grammar school, teenage years, young adulthood, and the various iterations that it went through. And it generally got bad at a or bad non-productive. We recognize it around like when I was 30 or so, you know, adulthood, more responsibilities, buying a house, running a business, and all of that. Um, and how because I didn't understand, I didn't know, I let it run me so much of the time, you know, because I just didn't know. I figured that's is like this, the enemy within, sort of, you know. Anyway, so I just got a clearer understanding and kind of put it in its place in a good way. And I gave it a new job to do, right? A new purpose in life, which is to like assist me, right? And
That is so awesome to hear.
so it gave me a lot of relief and clarity and freedom, you know? So,
Sounds like you leveled up.
I was just
yeah.
going to say, welcome to a new timeline, Mark. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Oh my God. You know, and like as TJ has said before, like we are new creatures every second, aren't we? We're ever changing, you know, morphing into something else, and our cells are being replaced. So, like, we can change, we can look at ourselves, all of ourselves, we can embrace all, all of us, and accept who we are, and lovingly make appropriate changes, right? So, anyway, thank you for that.
You're worth it.
So happy for you guys. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. You can get free, amazingly, free of the self-imposed. As I said before, we are the wardens of our imprisoned minds. We have the key. We do. We put ourselves in this mind prison to a certain extent, and we have the key to get out. So it's always possible, always doable. I'm living that right now.
You did the work, brother.
With your help.
You're welcome.
Yep. Anyway, I hope that's helpful.
If you were supposed to do it alone, you'd be on the planet by yourself.
Amen. Yes. Yep.
And if it were easy, we would all figured it out when we were like 5.
Yep. Yep.
And I'd be out of a job, which I would be fine with because I would find other things to do.
Yep. Yep.
That leaves us with 9 minis for any other. Lenora.
I had this insight the other day, and some of you might have heard this. Everything's happening for my highest good or for my highest frequency. And I started to notice, especially because there is sometimes a bit of a time lag in this wonderful place that we call reality. And I was thinking, I'm like, if it's happening for my highest good, why does it feel like I'm being punished? Like, I don't want to be here. This isn't what I want to be doing. And I started to shift it and notice it's happening for my highest good in that moment. What is it trying to teach me? What is it trying to show me? What do I need to be focused on? And even in that moment, if my highest good is to choose a better thought, to not be pouty, and to figure out what this is trying to show you, what this is trying to teach you, that is choosing the higher frequency. That is how things are always working out for you, because it's showing you this reflection. You're giving, you're receiving, and it's reflecting back to you that things are working out for you. You have to level up your frequency. So if you're noticing, I don't want to be doing this, okay, what is this trying to teach you? And how else might you be able to think of it differently? And being able to shift it that quickly in the moment really does shift our awareness. The trick is you have to be aware of when you're in that frequency, because that phrase bugged me for the longest time. I couldn't figure out if it's for my highest good, like, I don't want to be doing this. Like, what's happening here?
Oh, yeah.
And when I noticed that, I was like, oh, that's quite the mirror, isn't it? Thought I'd share. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Trust the process.
Right? Doesn't it come down to trust and faith that we're in a benevolent universe and everything offered for us, if we can see it, is for our greater good. If we can just be aware of that, right? And of course, watching our judgments go, oh, this is bad, and that's all based on conditioning from birth, Oh, this is bad. The last time something like this happened was awful. I don't want to go there. But when you can have a greater awareness that as hard as it is to accept what's going on, and there's some jewel here, there's a pearl here for us, life is very different.
And ever changing.
Ever.
Something Mike put in the chat. He's going to rewatch this to find all the Easter eggs, but I think life presents us with Easter eggs every day.
Yeah.
Little gems that we need to come along and collect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's why I do this, because you guys bring Easter eggs every week.
Mm.
Are we adding that to the challenge, Mark? I know we talked, you and I were talking about the challenge last week, and I said, oh, that would be a really good challenge for the new year. Even I think, I like the idea of being able to say, oh, I'll look for 3 Easter eggs. And sometimes it's so dismissive, like you could just totally tear through them and not think about it, and it sweeps aside really quickly. If you're like, you know what, I am going to look for 22 Easter eggs today. Or like if you picked out a number from a jar and the jar was from like 1 to 30, how many Easter eggs are you going to notice? Or how many things are you going to notice today that is going to be around? Because that way you're making it more physical, you're making it more acknowledged in your life. And then you get to notice way more of these lessons. And there are times where I will say this to myself, and then I'm like, it really is so true. It's about the relationship you have with yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Asking yourself the right questions. You know, gee, I wonder what good things are going to happen to me today.
Yeah.
And, that's telling your brain, pay attention to the good stuff. And if you look hard enough, there's always good stuff. You know, and at the end of the day, if you're a scorekeeper, write down what good stuff happened to you today.
Hmm.
You know, I don't happen to be a scorekeeper, but I've done this often enough. So, you know, because life is a bowl of marbles, 50 are black, 50 are white. Every day you get to, according to Irma Bombeck, you get to reach in and grab 10. How many are going to be white? How many are going to be black? You don't know. But if you tell yourself first thing in the morning, ask yourself the right question, like how many, you know, what good things are going to happen to me? You get into the habit of only looking at the white ones, right? Where most people are always looking at the black ones. You know, someone who had 9 great things happen to him one day and one less than positive. You ask them at the end of the day, how was your day? I guess today didn't suck too bad. But there were 9 great things that happened. And you didn't focus on any of them. You focused on the one black marble. Just, you know, again, it's the habit we get into, you know, to look, you know, what, you know, so every
And you
day
find what you
I'm
look
always
for.
looking for the next.
Yes.
That reminded me of a Wayne Dyer story where he asked a guy, he noticed a guy was must have had a cold, and he said, "You got a cold?" "Yeah." "Well, how long have you had it?" "Well, in a week it'll be a month." That's how you look at it? In a week, I'll be sick for a month. Lenora.
My dad has 2 things that really stand out to me. At least at this exact moment. I mean, he's got tons, but we'll go with these 2 for right now. Every time I call him and I say, "How are you doing?" He goes, "I'm fantastic." No matter what. He's telling me that he's fantastic. I'm like, I love to hear that because you can hear how excited he is. You can hear the energy in his voice. And the other thing that I think of, especially when we can get up every day, and sometimes it can feel a little mundane if we're doing things that are what I affectionately refer to as covering our dimes and not necessarily the work that really lights us up. And he goes, he'll say, well, it's something along the lines of like, I'm above ground. It's a good day. And when we're in person, so here's the third one. When we're in person or on FaceTime, I said, "Oh, it's so great to see you." He goes, "Always better to be seen than viewed." So he's so good with the corny jokes. So if those are some of the thoughts that help pop you up in the morning, I really do. I get up at 4 a.m., but I'm telling you, I love my morning routine. It's rare. Out of like a 30-day period, we're talking like maybe 2 mornings where I'm like, I could go back to sleep. I'm always excited to get up in the morning. I'm always looking forward to my morning routine and what I do. And if people find themselves not excited to get out of bed, and no matter what's on your schedule, find a way to make time for you in the morning because it's going to change your entire day. Completely change your entire day.
Yep.
Right at 9 p.m.
And a quick finish with Michael.
Yes, sir. So a couple things with Mark. You find what you look for. And so if you look for the good and the white marbles or the purple and pink marbles, that's what you find. And Lenora, every day that we wake up, it's our present, and it just depends on how we open it up. So, and to your father, any day you're looking down is better than looking up, you know? So, I mean, it's all together. So I love it. You
That's a
guys
good
are
one.
all-
I'm going to share it with them.
Yeah, any day you're looking down is instead of looking up. It's a good day. So, but I appreciate every one of you guys. You guys are amazing. I'm in Palm Springs right now. It is dark. I got off work a little while ago and was in Park City, Palm Springs, bounce around. Life is great, man. Every day, I'm blessed and highly favored. That's all I can say.
Cool. Appreciate you here, brother. And one of my quotes that I came up with in regards to what you look for, you find, and you guys have heard this a number of times, in the quantum of possibilities, best case scenario has just as much probability as worst case scenario. The one that you will find the most is the one that you look for and you give the most energy to.
Yep.
100%.
And with that,
Yeah.
we once again proved the theory of time manipulation. I always say, if you want to know how long a minute is or can be, do a plank. If you want to see how quickly 2 hours can go by, join us here on Triple T. Gone, just like that. So
Just
with
like that.
I want to thank all of you for showing up. For those of you out on YouTube, love you, Mom. And look forward to seeing all of your beautiful smiling faces back here in 7 days, which will bring us right on the eve of Christmas. So I hope you guys have a nice, relaxing 7 days leading up to that. Live your life as best as you can. Allow the voices in your head to be positive because you have the choice. Love you all. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, TJ.
Thank you.
Guys.
Good night, all.